Hi everyone, welcome to Chess Comic, where we learn, laugh, and checkmate. For today's video, we're going to learn the Damiano's defense, or we can say the Damiano's trap. If I remember it right, I have mentioned it or said it on my previous videos, especially this on the Scholar's Mate and on the Immortal game, that moving the F pawn early in the game is not actually great because it creates a weakness or a hole to our king. So the Damiano's defense is actually a perfect example to show you that moving the F pawn early in the game is not great. So if you guys are ready, let's start. White plays pawn to e4, black plays pawn to e5, knight f3, and black plays pawn to f6. So moving the f pawn, which is actually not great. Here you may think that white can play bishop to c4 to just develop normally and then castle, right? But that's actually a little bit slow, because in this position, white can strike right away by moving the knight to e5. So it's knight takes e5, sacrificing the knight. If you sacrifice a piece, your opponent has an option to capture or to decline. So let's focus on capturing our knight first, because obviously we're going to lose points. So f takes e5, and here goes queen h5. Here black has an option to move the king to e7 or to block with a pawn, right? If black plays pawn to g6, this will be almost the same as to the Scholar's Mate. Queen takes e5 when white is able to fork the black king and the rook, and white will just be better. I mean, we'll be up by points. So let's go back. Question is, what if the king goes to e7? We'll also play queen takes e5 check. The king is forced to go to f7. There's no other square. Followed by bishop c4 check. The king is not forced to go to g6, but the only safe square for the black king is g6, because here black can even sacrifice its pawn by playing pawn to d5, in which white will just capture it for free. So let's say the king goes to g6, followed by queen f5 check. King is forced to go to h6, and here we need to attack the king again, and we have a sleeping piece that we can activate by moving the d pawn. So it doesn't really matter if we play pawn to d4 or d3. So let's just play pawn to d3. Bishop attacks the king. Black has an option to block with the queen, which is actually wrong, because we'll just take it. Queen takes g5 and it's a mate. So now black is logically forced to block with the pawn. And in this position, this is actually the beginning of the end. I want you to give yourself a minute, pause your video, and find the best move for white. Go. Alright. The correct move for white is to play pawn to h4, which is PP on PP, not the stinky P, but putting more pressure on the pin piece. After white played this move, white has a threat of bishop takes g5, forking the king and the queen, which is alarming for black. So black may play bishop to e7. If you're thinking of, okay, coach, what if the queen runs away? If the queen tries to run away from this diagonal, white can just simply play queen takes g5 and just checkmate. So here, based from my own experience, I mean, I have trapped and I've won a lot of games from this position. Black usually plays bishop to e7 to stop bishop takes g5 to the fork, right? But white can already checkmate in 2. I want you to give yourself a minute, pause your video, and find the checkmate in 2. Go. Alright. The correct move for white is h takes g5. a double check. I want you to keep in mind, if the king is in double check, it is forced to run away. So the king is forced to run away to g7, and then followed by queen f7. Check the mate. It's like a puzzle, right? I mean, the moment the king moved to e7, everything seems to be forced or logically forced. Let's take a look at it one more time. King goes to e7, queen takes e5. King is forced to go to f7, bishop c4 check. King is logically forced to go to g6, queen f5, king h6. It doesn't matter, we just have to move our pawn or our d pawn to use our bishop to attack the king. And now pawn to g5 is logically forced, then pawn to h4. The threat is h takes g5, which is actually unstoppable. If black, I mean, just like what we have discussed, if black plays something like bishop e7, then we have h takes g5, king g7, then queen f7. Okay, now let's move back from the start. So when white was able to play knight takes e5, this will be a takeaway for the intermediate, okay, from beginners to intermediate or perhaps advanced. So most advanced players will definitely know what to do in this position, but for the beginners to the intermediate, you guys may not know if, okay, if the queen goes to e7, attacking her knight, creating what, a skewer, right? So we just have to move our knight back to f3. Doesn't really matter, even though black is able to capture our pawn in e4. So there's a chess theory that says moving the queen out early in the game is not actually good, because your opponent can create a tempo. When we say tempo, it's like a free move out of your queen, just like to attack your queen, and then you're forced to move your queen, and your opponent will just keep on developing its pieces. So here we're going to block, or white will block with the bishop, not with the queen. You don't want to trade off the queens, because this queen is going to be attacked early. So let's just play a random move, a logical random move for black that will put its king to safety. Okay, bishop c5. Then we castle. Knight to e7, because black wants to castle, right? And we play pawn to d4, attacking the bishop. The bishop goes back to b6. I mean, if the bishop goes to d6, it blocks the d pawn, then blocks the light square bishop. After pawn to d4, if the bishop goes to b4, we can just simply play pawn to c3, attacking the bishop one more time. And it creates a lot of tempos. Then we create a chain. So bishop b6 is the most logical move forward for black. And then now, let's attack the queen. Queen goes to e6. And then we play pawn to d5, attacking the queen again. Queen goes to d6. And here, we can simply play bishop to c4. Because in chess, there's what you call a prophylaxis. Preparing on something that you already know. It's like you know what your opponent will do. So here we know that black wants to castle, right? So we play bishop to c4 to threaten and prepare for this diagonal. So let's say black castles. And now we play knight to e4, attacking the black queen. The only safe square for the black queen now is b4, right? If the black queen goes to c5, we'd say. The black queen goes to e5, we'd say. It goes to f4, we'd say. So the only safe square is b4. So black queen goes to b4. And now it attacks our bishop. So we'll just play a quiet move, which is pawn to b3 to protect our bishop. And here, white is actually threatening pawn to d6. A discovered attack from our bishop to the black king, and the pawn attacks the knight at the same time, which will make us win a knight. So the most logical move for black is to play pawn to d6 to stop our pawn from moving forward. And here, in this position, there is a two-move combo in order for white to trap and win the black queen. I want you to give yourself a minute, pause your video, and find the two-move combo. Go. All right. White is just to simply play pawn to c3. The black queen is forced to go to a5. There's no safe square. a3 is attacked by the bishop, right? Obviously, the b pawn is attacking or protecting the bishop on c4 and attacking a4. The knight on e4 is attacking c5. The bishop attacks the b5 square. The knight protects the c3 pawn. So, looking at the position, the only safe square for the black queen is the a5 square, which forces the queen to go to a5. But after pawn to b4, the black queen has to say bye-bye. So it's totally trapped. Right? I hope you guys learned from this video, especially please avoid moving the f pawn early in the game. Great. Okay. So till next time. Bye bye for now.